What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Turn the Jets podcast. I'm your host, Will Parkinson, at WillPod11 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Will Parkinson F on YouTube, the whole 9 yards. All 32 podcasts with Mike Giardi, shameless plug, will be out this week. It's finally here. Veterans reporting to training camp. We can start to talk about a little bit of football. Guys are going to put pads on. We're done with shorts and t-shirt season. We have helmets during practice. Exciting stuff. Actual real football. Obviously, with Jets veterans reporting today, we're gonna hop on regardless. The kind of breaking news, quote unquote, which when me and Ross Tucker, our esteemed guest, will get into right now. Haason Reddick is holding out of Jets camp, something that's a little bit more rare these days. Just a lot of guys have been holding in because of the new CBA. Ross, Haason Reddick's saying kind of F the CBA. I'm going to take these $50,000 fines until you guys fix my contract. A, how we doing? And B, are you surprised we're here with the Reddick situation?
Yeah, so Will, doing awesome. Always great to visit with you, man. You're doing an unbelievable job. And I say it all the time. Jets have a top 5 fan base. The passion that you got, and I know it because anytime I say anything bad about the Jets or anything people don't like about the Jets, they kill me. And what's so funny about it is I really like Saleh and Joe Douglas personally a lot. But when I see a team do something I think is stupid or not right, like I say it, no matter what team it is, right? Great to see you. I'm not surprised at all that Haason Reddick isn't showing up for training camp to start. Here's the thing I said like since day one, right? If he was going to play for $14 million this year, the Eagles wouldn't have traded him. He's from Philadelphia. He grew up an Eagles fan. They have a very talented roster and good team. He would have just stayed there if he was okay with letting the year run out and then being a free agent. He was way underpaid last year and the year before it. He knows it. He signed a 3-year, $45 million deal with the Eagles, $15 million a year. You know, the first year it's like, okay, yeah, maybe a little bit less, but he took a little bit less to play for the Eagles. Well, then these guys started getting 26, 27, 28 million. You know, Bosa's what, 32 million. Watt's up there. The guy's not playing well for 50 cents on the dollar. If he was on the free market, he's a $28 million a year player. He's not playing for 50 cents on the dollar, right? I think the only thing I'm a little bit surprised about, I guess, if anything, well, first of all, I never understood why the Jets didn't do a deal with him right when they traded for him. I assumed that they had some understanding on an extension or an adjustment or whatever. I've seen people report or say that the Jets did think they had an understanding. They did think that there was some type of agreement that I guess that he was happy to play this year, or that they would just give him, I don't know. Maybe you know more about that than I do. I will say this. Maybe my biggest surprise, Will, is that he's holding out rather than holding in. I don't really understand why any guy would do that now. Because no matter what money, look, he's going to play in every game for the Jets this year, right? So if you're the type of person that doesn't really care about the business side of these things or like contracts or whatever, then don't give a crap. He's going to play in every game for the Jets this year. Saleh's on the hot seat. Joe Douglas is on the hot seat. They need to win this year. That's why they traded for him. He's an awesome football player. He's going to have double-digit sacks for the Jets this year. He's going to play in every game. Everything else is just details, which is when do they adjust the contract to the point where he's willing to come in. And the Jets, by the way, have a long history of basically caving in these situations, right? Like Revis, even Ryan Fitzpatrick on some level. Like he's going to get more money this year. It's just a matter, will he play for 20? Does it have to be 24? You know, I don't know what the number, I don't know what they'll resolve it at. But I just still don't understand. Well, like for me, I would go like, why would you give back $50,000 a day? Like why would you give them?
That's the one thing I don't understand.
Yeah, because they can't, under the new CBA, they cannot forgive that fine. So I think the guys look at it like, well, maybe they'll give me extra to do. No. Whatever they're going to give you is what they were going to give you, period. They don't get a credit for the fine money. Yeah. Right. So anyway, I just talked for a while. But you got me. I laid it all out there, man.
Yeah,
Go for it.
no, look, there's a couple of things here. I think you made a couple of points that I fully agree with. I think whatever conversations, kind of quote unquote dirty little secret, and you know this better than anybody, obviously, when guys get traded in the NFL and they were looking for a new deal, it's very rare that you get traded somewhere where you don't have at least the parameters of what a deal might look like. It's usually what happens. It's very rare, I think, in the NFL, from everything I've known my whole life and everything I've kind of heard, is that, you know, this is usually what happens, right? You're about to get traded. Hey, I want a new deal. Brandon Ayuk's going to have the parameters of a new deal if he gets traded at some point. Wherever he would get traded, if he does, I guarantee if the Patriots give him a first round, whatever, I'm just using them as an example, they're damn sure going to know what
They're
Brandon
not
Ayuk
trading
wants.
for him without having some idea of what the new contract's going to be.
Exactly. And even if the Jets said, hey, this is, you know, we had some conversations. Brian Costello reported about 2 or 3 minutes ago, right before we hopped on, the Jets had offered an extension to Reddick, essentially. And clearly the extension was not, just because you offer it doesn't mean they have to accept an extension. They could have offered him a dog shit deal. We don't know the details of what they offered him. I've used the Danielle Hunter contract over and over again as same age player, same position, very similar production. Hunter got 2 years, 48.5 to 49 million. And then guys have gotten paid after Hunter now, and who's, you know, a really damn good player. I think Reddick is probably regarded as a slightly better player than Hunter, or if not comparable. So I was like, okay, that's an easy thing. The Jets will get that done. That obviously has not happened. And could that still happen? Maybe, maybe not. With the Jets want to, you know, Woody Johnson, the Jets want to shell out more cash this year, you know, for a defensive guy. Who knows? We'll see. That's not always been their thing. He probably wants to see some wins first. That's all fair. What I don't understand is this has been a thing. He held out of OTAs. He held out of minicamp. He got traded on April 1st. I don't know where the Haason Reddick, not only is he the 18th or 20th highest paid on, depending on what website you use, you know, edge rusher, he has no guaranteed money. $0 are guaranteed, quite literally zero. And not for nothing, going to play in that MetLife turf. And he's a guy who's 29 years old. He probably wants some type of guarantees in his contract. And I don't fucking blame him. I don't blame the Jets for saying, hey, we'd love to get you to play on $14.5 million a year. That's what a good organization is going to do. Hey, we want you to play on a cheaper money deal for us because we want to go trade for Devontae Adams and do all this stuff in the middle of the year. Again, that's all fair. Both sides have a reason to feel the way they want to feel. I think this will get done, and it's not going to be a big deal. As you mentioned, he's one of the most durable players in the NFL, productive, all these different things. It won't be a big deal. He'll be suited up week one. I also just think this could have been very similar to the Rodgers-Egypt situation, very similar to other things where the Jets are very media conscious, very PR and narrative driven in terms of, hey, we want to control this stuff. That's great. But these are two situations where I feel like get out ahead of, hey, man, we're going to give you half this is going to be fully guaranteed this year. And we're going to give you up to $10 million in bonuses you can earn by getting 10 sacks. And we make the playoffs and all these different things. It doesn't affect the cap as much. And we're going to give you extra cash. So you feel like we're taking care of you. And it's also good faith down the line if they do want to extend him. Because right now it's like they have no relationship. He's never played for the Jets. And the Jets, he is like, what is he? You know, there's not really the same thing here where it's a guy already on the roster, right? So I don't know.
And this is the thing, Will, about the Jets that I feel like has been going on forever. And it's got to be maddening for you guys. The Aaron Rodgers situation was totally their own doing. You know, now I will say this. I don't know why Rodgers felt like he had to go to Egypt that week. And that's a whole other conversation. But if you're the Jets and it's really important to you that your starting quarterback is at the mandatory minicamp, well, then why didn't you have it the week before like a bunch of other teams did?
Yeah, they canceled it last year.
or it would have been so easy to just say it was an excused absence. Do you see how many guys like on the Jags and these other teams, Landon Dickerson for the Eagles, had excused absences from minicamp? Like they made it an issue by making it an unexcused absence. Nobody would have even thought anything of it. But yet it's almost like, I mean, clearly they wanted to make it an unexcused absence. I don't know if they wanted to.
They're both like leverage plays almost. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, we want a little bit of leverage because Aaron it does a lot of the talking. We want to have a little bit of the power back. It's over. Yeah, like, you know, you don't need, like, there's no reason to do that, in my opinion. And I totally agree with you. I felt like it was an easy, hey, it's excused. And like, even if you're pissed internally, just externally you control it and say, hey, it's not a big deal. Or even more so, and similar to the Reddick situation, you knew Reddick. I know there was been reporting, and again, maybe Reddick lied and his agent got in his ear, and there's a bunch of different things. Hey, he was going to report and he didn't, and whatever. It's all fair, and maybe that did happen. I'm not saying it didn't, but also like control. What do you say, especially in New York and Philly and these other places, is going to get blown up tenfold. And the Jets had media availability a lot of times before Rodgers. They knew about this apparently since back in the fall. Get ahead of it on a random Friday in April. Hey, Aaron's not going to be here the last two minicamp practices. He's got a planned excused absence. Who cares? No one's talking about it. Like, no one would have given a shit. And no one would have given a shit about Reddick holding out if, I mean, I guess it's more of a big deal, but I'm just saying, this is one of those, like, just add on the money this year, give him some guaranteed money, give him some incentives, and he's going to go out there and play really well because he wants to get a big contract.
I swear, Will, sometimes with the Jets, I wonder if they go to the Jerry Jones school of any publicity is good publicity as long as people are talking about the team, because it just seems so often they do things the hard way or unnecessary, but they get a lot of attention for it. Rodgers is one example. And now the Reddick thing, maybe they know what they're going to get the deal done at, and maybe I don't think this is the case, right? But, I don't know what they think they're waiting for. I guess, on some level you could argue, well, let's hurt them then, like let's hit them in the pocketbook. Let's take away a few $100,000 before we cave, but they're going to cave. Like, and maybe
they need him. They need him to be good.
1,000%. No, but maybe the thought process is the closer we get to it, the more nervous he'll get, and maybe we can get him to play for 22 million instead of 24 or whatever the number, whatever that is, because let's be honest, there's not really a huge sense of urgency for the Jets right now. I mean, they can say that there is, but they probably need him a week to 2 weeks before the first game. Like they don't need to wear him down in practice.
He's in year 8. He knows he knows what it takes to get his body ready. That's the thing too. It's not like he's a young guy where it's a rookie missing days of camp and all these different things. Like this is a guy who shows up every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, whatever fucking day that you're going to play on in modern day NFL, and he's going to go out there and produce. I agree with you. The sense of urgency. This is going to be a thing that'll be done by the time I record my Tuesday pod next week, and it'll be done, and he'll end up playing for up to 25 million or 24 million, and they guaranteed half the deal and a bunch of different stuff. That's what'll end up happening. Ian Rappaport pretty much told you what exactly that he wants now. He said he's like, Reddick is looking for incentives and guaranteed cash in 2024 if the extension can't be done. It's like, yeah, obviously. I wanted to ask you.
I don't understand the guaranteed in 2024 at all. I mean, once he suits up for the first game,
then it's locked
in.
The
whole thing's guaranteed anyways. I don't know what his concern is there. Is his concern he gets hurt during training camp? Well, that's still guaranteed. Then you go on IR and it's guaranteed. I don't understand the guaranteed cash. Now, wanting to have guaranteed money
in 25
for next year is a little bit different. And that I understand too. Because you could have, they could give you up to 25, whatever this year, but then he gets hurt and then he's in a bad spot in free agency next year.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. We have about a couple minutes here. I want to talk quickly with you. Obviously, you know O-line extremely well. The Jets have invested a lot, in the offensive line throughout Joe Douglas's tenure, but it feels like this is the first time, and again, I'm sure I'm going to jinx myself. This is the first time where it kind of feels like both on-field production and most of the room and the scheme and everything's kind of starting to match up in a good spot. They have actual depth, obviously. They went with we talked so much last year with the Broderick Jones and Will McDonald pick. This year, I feel like they got a better player in Olu Fashanu, and like they protected their big asset at left tackle with a guy who should be a really damn good player in the NFL for a long time. AVT's coming off injury, but when he's been healthy, he's been awesome. The Jets don't play in Denver this year, which should hopefully save his body. Joe Tittman's a guy got a lot of experience, obviously another top 60 pick. John Simpson's coming off his best career year. I think he's probably the 1 weak spot on the offensive line. And then Morgan Moses is a guy who's extremely durable. You know what you're going to get. You're going to probably get the 12th or 13th best right tackle in the league. That's all you really need. So where do you feel like this O-line is now, especially where last year I feel like the biggest concern, we weren't talking about Rodgers getting hurt. We were talking about, is this offensive line going to hold up? And obviously it didn't. This offensive line feels much, much different to me. And again, injury questions for sure with Smith and AVT specifically, but they actually have real depth now, which is something they have not had in the past.
Yeah, well, so first of all, I really like the starting offensive line. I really like the starting offensive line across the board. You know, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses were still playing at a high level last year, right?
Smith was
I
all pro,
also
wasn't
like
he?
what's that?
Smith was a second team all pro or third team all pro, no?
Yep.
Yep.
Still playing at a high level, both of them. Simpson had a great year for the Ravens, kind of out of nowhere. And Vera Tucker's an excellent right guard. I also like that it's like they draft Fashanu. So not only does that give him depth at both tackles, but I love that Fashanu can learn from Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, right? Like that's very helpful for Fashanu's development and future. It's not, for a win now team, they're not often going to take an offensive lineman who's projected to be a backup, right? So, but I think they're smart enough to realize that one of those two guys is probably going to go down at some point for a few games. And the hope is that, Fashanu can get it done there. I personally would still like to see a little bit more experience depth. I see a lot of guys that have not played very much football. Obviously, they do have Max Mitchell and Schweitzer, but I think
Yeah,
you
one
look
more
at some.
guy on the interior, right? Like one more guard center flexibility type of guy.
I think so. Yeah. I would. And by the way, you don't need to get that guy now, right?
Yeah,
But
that's a guy midway through camp. Veterans like, hey, come in. Like even
yep,
Connor McGovern, who they've had for the last 4 years. Hey, can you come in and just be the backup center, alternate a guard if needed? Just you've started games in the NFL. If we need you on a week, you could figure it out.
1,000%. Yep, something like that.
Yeah. So no, I think you mentioned the last thing here and this fashion new Tyron Smith thing is I've talked a lot about like Olu's going to get like 90% of the reps during camp and during every week of the year. Tyron Smith practices maybe once a week. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No. It's I agree. So that's huge, and I'm excited for your Jets, man. Thank you so much for
no,
having me, Will. I really
of
appreciate it.
course, man. Make sure you guys check out Ross's show, Ross Tucker NFL on socials, and he's got some stuff on there, Haason Reddick stuff as well. We will be back on the feed tomorrow. Ross, we appreciate you taking some time.
Thank you.